This is the Dollemore Daily, and I'm Jesse Dollemore. Donald Trump's cabinet is truly a reflection of himself, the very worst parts of himself. It seems that those who hold cabinet-level positions in this administration are either actively trying to destroy the very organizations they're there to protect through sinister intent, or they're inadvertently doing it through sheer uselessness and stupidity. Yesterday, Housing and Urban Development Secretary and apparent good friend of Jesus, that's a real thing that he had painted to hang in his house, Ben Carson appeared before the House Financial Services Committee and got taken to school so hard by superstar freshman Congresswoman Katie Porter that even diehard Trump dummies have to be hurting for him. You see, Congresswoman Porter asked Ben Carson about the disparity in REO rates for FHA mortgages. And Carson, apparently really needing the nap that he never ever seems to get, replied, "Oreo?"
As you look it up, I'd also like you to get back to me, if you don't mind, to explain the disparity in REO rates. Do you know what an REO is?
An Oreo?
No, not an Oreo. An REO. REO.
Real estate?
What's the O stand for?
Organization?
Owned. Real estate owned. That's what happens when a property goes to foreclosure. We call it an REO. And FHA loans have much higher REOs. That is, they go to foreclosure rather than to loss mitigation or to non-foreclosure alternatives like short sales than comparable loans at the GSEs. So I'd like to know why we're having more foreclosures that end in people losing their homes with stains to their credit and disruption to their communities and their neighborhoods at FHA than we are at the GSEs.
I would be extremely happy if you'd like to have you work with the people who do that.
Well, Mr. Carson, respectfully, that was my day job before I came to Congress. So now it's my job to ask you to work with the people.
I'm talking about the people at HUD who do that.
I've spent a decade working with the people at HUD on this problem. So what I would like you to do is to take this back to FHA and to ask the folks at FHA, because since 2007, I have been writing about the problems in FHA's servicing.
After which, in an apparent gesture to make a joke out of the fact that he's a feckless clown who doesn't have the slightest idea about what he's doing, sent Congresswoman Porter a pack of Oreos with a note that read, "Thanks for your part in today's hearing. Hope you like these Oreos, Ben Carson." Ugh. Look, it may be superficially funny or amusing that Ben Carson is a world-class goof who thinks that the pyramids were built to store grain and has Bible scriptures with typos literally carved into the walls of his home, but this is no laughing matter. In fact, I'm getting ready to play for you what preceded the Oreo moment, which in my opinion is even more embarrassing a spectacle and demonstrating that he is hurting the very people that he is in his position to serve by having not even the slightest knowledge of what his job entails. Watch Congresswoman Porter being forced into a position to educate Secretary Carson on some of the most basic tenets about which he should, by now, be an expert.
Good afternoon, Mr. Carson. Are you in favor or opposed to adjusting the interest curtailment penalty schedule for FHA loans that are in default?
I don't know that I can say broadly. I think you.
Well, I'm asking you to state specifically.
I think you got to look at specific cases. In some cases, I might be in favor of it. In some cases, I might not.
Okay. Do you know what the interest rate curtailment schedule is at FHA and how it's different from the GSEs?
Well, we tend to try to maintain a lower interest rate FHA.
I'm not asking you about the interest rate, sir. I'm asking you about debenture interest curtailment penalties.
Explain.
So, all right, so FHA uses different servicing and conveyance procedures than the GSEs do. And the result of this is that the cost of servicing mortgage servicing at FHA for a non-performing mortgage is 3 times the cost of doing the equivalent servicing at the GSEs for a non-performing loan. That tripling of cost in servicing, which then has the effect of reducing the credit availability to the American people, because when you drive up servicing costs, then servicers overlay with cost overlays, and it makes the loans more expensive for the very homeowners that FHA is designed to serve. So my question I'm trying to drive at here is, why is FHA, to use a term that I think we can both understand, lousy at servicing mortgages?
Okay, I have not had any discussions about that particular issue, but I will look it up, find out what's going on.
So,
Look, this is a catastrophe for Americans all over the country who rely on the Department of Housing and Urban Development. And the fact that you don't know, or I don't know exactly what she's talking about, isn't a problem. But it is a problem, a big problem, that the individual tasked with knowing in detail hasn't the slightest clue. Thankfully, the 45th District of California, and by extension the rest of the nation, has solid representation in someone like Katie Porter. Yesterday's disgraceful and embarrassing performance by Ben Carson is yet another bit of evidence that the Trump administration isn't representing the needs of Americans, and is instead treating cabinet positions as though they're patronage positions.